I did play Megadeth's first 5 shows.
Kirk taught me my first chords.
Dime for Anthrax. He was our 5th member. That was heavy. That was heavy.
It says, due to the imagery and lyrical content of Show No Mercy, Slayer received mail from the PMRC telling the band to stop releasing records.
Nah, I don't know about that one.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't say yay or nay to that, and I'm not keeping it from you because I really don't give a shit. But I don't, if it was mailed to anybody, it wasn't mailed to me.
I just love the image of Tipper Gore at a computer or whatever. It's like, stop making records.
Ridiculous.
It said that you landed your gig as Metallica's lead guitarist without even having to audition. That's true?
Yeah.
Were they familiar with your guitar playing already? And no, not at all? Mm-mm. Were there actual auditions, or was it just you were there and they're like, just come play with us, man?
Well, what happened was we'd gone to Ron McGovney's parents' house where he was living, and they had a little area. I don't even know what you call it because I'm not a realtor, but you know, when you have a bunch of condos next to each other, there was like a driveway that went back, and there were several houses that were duplexes that were lined up down the street. And so Ron had his own duplex with a garage that we had for rehearsing, and I went in there and I set my stuff up, and I was just tuning my guitar, and I came in and I said, okay, so you know, are we gonna do the audition? They said, no, you got the job, and I was just warming up. So I think what they heard pretty much impressed them to the point where they didn't need to do that. Yeah. And James wasn't playing guitar at the time too. I don't know if you've seen those pictures of him where he's got his mic stand and I'm the only one with the guitar. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty big load to take, being the only guitar player in a band.
Yeah. Dan Lilker came up with the name Anthrax after seeing the disease listed in a biology textbook.
Danny learned about it in biology class and told me about it. We used to walk to school together all the time, like every day. And he told me about Anthrax, and I just remember thinking it sounded really cool. Like, it sounded like a great name for a metal band because nobody would know what it was back then. And and I used to say to him all the time, when your band White Heat breaks up, we're going to start a band called Anthrax, because Danny was in a band called White Heat. And he would say, my band's not breaking up. And, you know, history proved him wrong. His band broke up.
The Metallica audition. It said you were the last of over 50 musicians to audition, and you secretly procured the band's set list, studied it, presented it to Lars, saying that you knew all of these songs, much to his surprise.
It's not that hard to figure out what set list the band played with Ozzy during the tour in the summer that time. You know, it wasn't that hard to figure out. It's not any kind of giant secret that you get your shit together if you really want a gig and you prepare the songs that they've been playing and you got yourself together enough to know and have that set list ready if then you decide to pull the trigger. So it is true that it was on Flotsam and Jetsam stationery with my logo at the top. It was written down in the order that they had performed in the last time they played in our area, and that I did hand it to him over the drums, and he looked at the logo and he looked at the list, and I did say I know these songs, and he did go, holy shit, dude, that's cool. And he goes, let's play that one, that one, that one, that one, and we did. And they called me back 2 days later. The Burtons were there, and Torben Ulrich was there, and you know, both Burtons were alive then. They were so nice to me. When I got called back, they all came. When I went back the second time, they all came to watch me and hug me and embrace me. And Jan Burton, you know, grabbed me right away. Once the guys told me, he said, "You're the one. They know you're the one. Please be safe." You know, that kind of shit. That was heavy. That was heavy.
So they were there to make sure that the next bass...
That they're passing it, and they're passing Cliff's torch on.
Wow.
Who's getting it?
Def Jam's distributor Columbia Records refused to release Rain and Blood due to its graphic cover and themes. The album was distributed by Geffen, but it did not appear in the Geffen Records release schedule because of controversial this and that and whatever.
Columbia refused to release Rain and Blood because of Angel of Death.
Okay, strictly because of that song.
Strictly because of that song.
Not that, because the album cover is really not...
It had nothing to do with the album cover. It had everything to do with the song.
Wow. Okay. Was it the same with Geffen not putting it in their release schedule?
Geffen didn't even put their logo, their David Geffen logo on the album. It was just American. It was released through Geffen, but you know, I mean, it's like they kind of like They handled it with gloves, so they wouldn't leave their imprint on it. but Geffen, Geffen picked it up, and which I think was actually a really good opportunity for Ruben because because Columbia not releasing the album was a breach of contract. So Ruben was able to get out of that and was able to do his own thing.
American is his label, right?
Yeah, American is his thing. So he was able to get out of that and make his own label.
All right, Dimebag Darrell almost became, of course, Pantera fame, almost became a member of Megadeth, but he didn't want to join a band without his brother Vinnie Paul also being in the band. And because you had already hired Nick Menza, you were forced to turn Dime down.
That is so close to fact. All of it's true, except at the time, Chuck Wheeler was still our drummer. So the Nick Menza part is not there yet. Chuck would leave, Nick would come in. So you're bending the truth toward what would become fact.
But you had a drummer and therefore couldn't
Yes, that is true. And Dime, he said if I would take the gig, I'd have to come with my brother, and we actually had a drummer.
Oh my God. Yeah. You just imagine how that would have changed just the history of music and metal.
Pantera Death or Megaterra or something, right?
Jeez. While recording Persistence of Time, a fire in the recording studio caused Anthrax to lose over $100,000 worth of gear.
Half fact. That was a rehearsal studio. It wasn't the actual recording studio. It was the actual rehearsal in Yonkers, right near my old house. That's the worst phone call you can get in the morning. Because we got that and it was insane when we went there. Seeing your basses go up in flames and seeing your gear that you been on the road and been through with the war of touring, all that stuff, and seeing it go up, and you cannot go in there. You're ready to run in. Those are really fragile stuff. Those are sacred. That's sacred stuff to us. And seeing like Scott's Marshalls that played on great records. It just broke our hearts, and there's nothing you could do about it. And the sucky thing about that is later on, when all this stuff was put out, you see people going in there against our will and during the night at 4 o'clock in the morning and taking stuff and getting them refurbished. That's what pisses you off. And then you see it on eBay, which even pisses you more. What? It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I'm not mad anymore. I'm past it. So you can.
I'm mad at it.
That just sucks, right? That's weak, right? People going in that, poaching that stuff. Because we didn't have, they told us to stay out of it until they say, the firemen, we couldn't go back in there yet. But people did and took a lot of our stuff out and had it refurbished. And then you see it for sale somewhere. And that really drives you crazy.
Show no mercy. On recording the drums, Metal Blade Records founder Brian Slagle wanted you to play without using cymbals.
True.
It's true?
Yeah, dude, that sucks so bad. And he still hears about it to this day. Not Brian, but Bill Montoya, the engineer.
Okay. What was the reasoning behind that?
The cymbals were very loud. I was using Paiste Rude cymbals. They cut really well on stage. For recording, they're good, but they're very bright.
Okay.
So he couldn't get it dialed in. He couldn't get any separation between the cymbals and the toms. There was a lot of bleed. So he asked me to dampen the cymbals, or muffle the cymbals, and I had to play like that. And then later I had to listen back and try to match the bass drum hits to the cymbals, and it was difficult because I play different every time. I keep the same structure, but I do a lot of improvisation, and I don't keep everything the same. So
you did try it out for a little bit, and it just kind of
it's there. We recorded it, but it wasn't on point, and you could hear it. I mean, if you really listen to it with headphones, you could hear that I'm a little late in certain parts, and that's because I was overdubbing the cymbals.
All right. In 1986, Legacy changed its name to Testament after finding out there was a jazz band named The Legacy.
It wasn't a jazz band. It was actually a hotel R&B cover band. It was a band in New Orleans that did the Commodores and Al Green and stuff like that.
Damn, so can they even take legal action, or was it just
because they were performing under the name.
Okay.
They trademarked it.
It says, which is pretty well known, Dan Spitz of Anthrax was once a member of Overkill.
That's a fact also.
It is.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about how or what he brought to Overkill in that very beginning stage?
Danny was Danny and his friend Anthony Amendola became the two guitar players in Overkill as we were a cover band. So really didn't bring anything except for good gear.
Okay.
And a love of Van Halen, because there was no other songs written at that time. And I think that the split happened because Danny moved on to Anthrax with his kind of Van Halen stuff, and we moved on to heavier stuff than his Van Halen stuff. So.
Okay. In 1984, you joined Dave Mustaine's new band, Megadeth. Jeff was worried about your decision, and while Mustaine wanted you to play on a permanent basis, you left Megadeth after playing 5 concerts.
I did play Megadeth's first 5 shows.
First 5 shows, all right.
And that being said, I was one of the lucky people, and there's certainly no offense against Kirk Hammett. Kirk's a wonderful friend of mine, but I was lucky enough to see Metallica with Mustaine. And I say that because it's just a rare thing to be able to say that. I saw them play at the Woodstock, and I was so intrigued by Mustaine because he was just ripping on guitar and looking out that way somewhere, and I'm like, I can't do that this fucking day. So I was just blown away at his guitar playing, and then to find out, I think it was through BC Rich, because we all played BC Rich back then. I think it was through BC Rich I found out that Dave was inquiring if I would play. And at the end of the day, I thought, this is a gigantic learning situation, And I also thought, people would see me and know me from Slayer, because, we only went to the Bay Area. That's still when we only got up there. So I think if people saw me, it would at least make them think Slayer. So I had Slayer's best intentions in mind. I didn't go and say, hey, I'm going to be in Megadeth. I don't know how anybody can be in Megadeth for more than a couple hours, because that guy's crazy.
Any personal experience? Only 5 shows?
First 5.
Any weird experiences with him in those 5 shows, or just we know that the
he was
lineup's
cooler.
been...
He was cooler back then.
Oh.
I think there's been a lot of drugs and funny extracurriculars between now and then that helped shape who he is today. But it was good times back then. Playing all the venues Slayer played and just, I don't know, playing different music. His stuff is definitely more, I don't say intricate, because we got intricate parts too, but it's just, he writes riffs in a very different perspective than I, even after playing with him for a number of months, it's still, I wouldn't do it. It's just not my style.
Gotcha. It said that the split, when you did leave Megadeth, it caused a rift between yourself and Dave Mustaine, which evolved into a long-running feud between Megadeth and Slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Before you took over Kirk Hammett's spot in Exodus, you were Kurt's guitar tech, but then it said after guitarist Tim Agnello left Exodus in 1981, then you joined and have become the main songwriter since.
There's some truth to there. Tim Agnello was the guitar player before I joined, but Exodus operated as a power trio with Tom playing drums and singing for a while. I met Kirk. I was a roadie, not a tech. You were playing backyard parties for free beer. You're not a technician at anything. Fine. That means you just hung out and you drank beer and maybe carried a guitar case in.
Totally.
I didn't tune the guitar. I didn't touch the guitar. Kirk taught me my first chords because we hit it off and became really fast friends. And 6 months later, I joined the band.
Damn, Kirk Hammett taught you how to play guitar?
Yeah, he showed me.
Just on the fly.
The first song he taught me, and I have a really good memory, and this is one thing I can't remember, but it was a Rolling Stones song. It's showing me some basic chords. Yeah. And I can't remember which one it is. Maybe Wild Horses or some shit like that.
That's pretty fucking cool. Flotsam and Jetsam. It said you answered a local newspaper ad when they were looking for a bass player while you were in Phoenix with your band Gangster. It said that Gangster broke up in Phoenix, so you went, hey, I'm here. Maybe I'll audition for a band.
Pretty close.
That's pretty close?
Pretty close. I was 18 years old. I don't recommend most of this.
Okay.
When I was 18 years old, I quit school. I had 3 months to go.
Wow.
But I was in a band with guys that were 26 and 27 years old. And they wanted to go to California to be rock stars.
Okay.
I sold a lot of my record collection, got $300 together, got my bass amp and a suitcase full of stuff, and told my parents I was rolling out, and my dad was freaking, my mom was freaking more. But I went and got in the back of a U-Haul truck with a sheepdog closed U-Haul truck with an English sheepdog named Rudy.
Okay.
I'd work at a sandwich pizza place from 9 to 6, and I'd go wash dishes from 7 to 2:30 in the morning, and I'd do round and round and round. I'd go and ride my BMX bike back and forth, and just trying to earn money and keep it together. And so finally I got to get away from those people, moved into some other houses I went, through time. And so 5 months after that, February of 1982, went into a music store in Phoenix on 16th Street, and Kelly Smith had an ad up on the wall there, and it said something about Iron Maiden or something, and Rush, I think it was. And I called him up, and he says, "Come on out." And we practiced at his dad's office. February 10th, 1982 was the beginning of Flotsam and Jetsam.
After 6 months of unsuccessfully searching for vocalists for Megadeth, it was decided that Dave Mustaine would front.
How many years?
No, after 6 months of you, was it longer than that?
It was actually 6 months, exactly. That is fact, because we formed technically in June of 1983, and it was on New Year's Eve of that same year that we got one more singer flaked out on his audition. And I think it was too metal for him, so he flaked out. And finally, Dave just stood up to the mic and started singing. And and after he sang, and he almost passed out because he wasn't really a singer. You know what I mean? When you sing songs like Megadeth and you don't breathe and all that kind of stuff, it's like he almost passed out and his face turned red. I said, "Dude, that was awesome. You're the singer, man. You got to do this." So he stepped up and tried it again, and after a couple of tries, he was the man.
It says that it was your idea personally to team up with Public Enemy for Bring the Noise.
Charlie and Frankie and I were all big fans, but I think the actual impetus, if memory serves, we had finished recording all the drum tracks for Persistence of Time, and I said to Charlie, "Don't break your kit down yet. I have an idea, and I have this idea to cover Bring the Noise," and then in the next 10 minutes, I think Charlie and Frankie and I basically came up with the arrangement. I had the riff for the song. I had the parts, and we came up with the arrangement and recorded it right then and there, in the next hour, and had that track done. So I just had this burning idea that I had to work with Chuck D. I needed to hear his voice with my guitars. I had to hear that sound in my head, and that's how it happened.
Amazing voice of his, absolutely. So that's pretty much basically true. You made a brief appearance as Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist in 1994 and 1995, but Ozzy's page only lists you as a member in 1995.
Ozzy's page is right.
Ozzy's page is correct, yes, as we thought. It was the one show that you played with him, right?
Yes.
Do you have any specific memories from the one Ozzy show?
The whole thing was like a whirlwind. It was.
Sure.
I jammed with him for the first time. And everybody told me, Ozzy hates to rehearse. So here's what's going to happen. He's going to come in the room. He's going to call out a song. Whatever song he calls it, just know the song. It's going to be one of these songs. They gave me a list. Don't have to tune. If your amp makes noise, turn it off. Keep it on. Yeah, don't. He hates noise. It was this. So I got this whole preparation, and sure enough, he came in. He barged in the room. I called out songs, and apparently it went really well, because then I heard that we're doing this unannounced show. At one time, he had a teleprompter at the time. That's not a big secret now. It's
not at all.
Yeah, and believe me, he's not the only singer that uses one.
Hey, he's Ozzy. Just let him have his teleprompter.
But I know they were auditioning a teleprompter operator. This nice lady. Yeah, she'd never worked with him before.
I've never heard about that.
At one point, though, she screwed up. I knew she lost the gig because she pressed the wrong button, and the song it disappeared. Okay. And he was looking, and then he looked over. And I thought it was the most evil look I've ever seen in my life. It was like Satan.
You just didn't know how to comprehend that moment.
It was
brilliant.
Surreal. But after the show, he gave me a big hug, and
good.
He actually told me I was hired, but and all the road crew congratulated me, and they thought it was great. But I had a feeling, there was one person who didn't congratulate me, so I
have a feeling I may know who that person is.
Yes, exactly. And
We'll leave it at that. On your personal Fender bass, you have R.I.P. Dimebag written on it.
You have great questions. I know where this is going, and I'm going to get choked up again because here it comes. The night Dime was murdered, I was in Europe with Helmet playing a show, and the news broke backstage before the show, and crying. I couldn't get home. Dime, you have to understand, Dime for Anthrax he was our fifth member. He was the next guy. He played on a lot of our records, a lot of our songs. We were very close with him. I mean, he was our brother, as he was for a lot of people, but specifically for us because he played on so much of our stuff. And we went on tour, and it's a lot of love there. So long story short, I couldn't get there. I just felt like I want to go home now. Obviously, I had to play a show that night with Helmet, but I just wanted to just leave. Can't do that. So my way, as I'm crying, because I couldn't, express this, I couldn't get there, all that stuff to be with him, to be there. I got a drill from the shop guy at the show we were playing. I said, I just need a drill, and that was my way of doing it, just paying tribute to Dime. That was that night. So from that bass you're talking about, rest in R.I.P. Dime. That was that night. That's the only way I can do something about it, right? And feel something, and all of us in Helmet, we were all just crying on stage, and especially when Paige said tribute and to Dime, and it was just a moment, man. It was just another moment. Rest his soul. Dime's still with us, man. They were all there. My brother, my grandmother, all good.